Good evening, everyone, and I welcome you to yet another webinar on one of the most important topic for the GMAT math, which is geometry. And specifically, we have picked this two important concept, out of which one is triangles and another is circle. Uh, there are a lot of questions that come across triangles and circles from level Q38 till Q48. So this makes a key consideration for this particular topic to be done. So today, I picked some important concept, the axioms, maybe the postulates or theorems, or maybe the rules. Some may call it as tips, some may call it as shortcuts, some may call it as tricks. So there are a lot of words that we can give it to, but to better understand it, it's the major concept that is applied in a question that is visible on the GMAT screen test day. So let's start with the first part. Well, let's start with the triangles. So let's start with the first part today, which is property of triangle slides. So we are talking about property of triangle. And so the property of triangles, if we talk about, we're talking in the terms of side. Now, this is a very basic question that comes across in the PS. So there will be a couple of options that will be given. So there could be two kind of questions that can be formed here. The first one is they may give us three sides in the combination and they may ask which one exists, or they may give us two sides and ask for the third sides. So in either of the situation, we need to make sure that we remember just a simple logic that the sum of length of two sides in a triangle is always larger than the length of the remaining side, which is third. So suppose if there is a triangle with a side ABC, A would be less than B plus C, or we could say B is less than C plus A, or we could say that C is less than A plus B. So now if I have to range it, always remember, this is the important part. C, that's a third side, would be greater than the difference of two sides, but it would be lesser than the addition of two sides. So C is, so this is the possible range of length of C, which is between A minus B and A plus B. Similarly, this postulate is applied to A and B. So we have the range of possible lengths for the third side as well. So let's talk about one of the question. Let's see how this particular concept is applied in one of the question. So the question says if the length of two sides of a triangle are 5 and 9, which of the following are possible lengths for the third side? And we have options like first only, second, second and third, first and third, and first, second, and third. So now the concept speaks about the length. So how the three particular sides of a triangle are related to each other in terms of length. And secondly, there are two sides that are given which are 5 and 9. So we have been actually looking forward to get the third side. So we know that the sum of the length of the two side is always greater than the length of the third side. So if 5 and 9 are my two sides, then the sum happens to be 14. So let's talk about this, that my third side would always be it's smaller than 14. So possibly 14 cannot be the answer. So I could have answer as 8 or 2. So if I do that, I may end up marking first and second only. But one thing that will save me here is I have no such option which says one and second only. So I'll again go back and I'll recall, what is it that I'm missing. But what if there was an option like C option was not second and third, but it was like first and second only? I may have marked it and, just gone ahead with the other question. So always remember for this sort of question, if you're adding, you should always be aware about their subtraction as well. The subtraction of the difference between the two sides is 4 and the addition is 14. So the range that we're going to get here for the third side should be greater than 4 but less than 14, and hence there is only one option that is satisfying this, which is 8. So option number 2 which is like B, second only is the correct. So we go with the option number B. So this error has happened with most of the students in the past. So always make sure that you apply the range part properly of the difference and addition. Let's talk about the classification of triangles based on the sides. So we have equilateral that says all the three sides will have equal lengths. Hence, all the angles would measure 60 degrees. Isosceles, then we have two sides equal length and two base angles are equal, or angle opposite to equal sides are equal. Then we have an acute triangle. All the three angles will be smaller than 90. Then we have a right triangle. We have one angle is a 90. And when we have one of the angle larger than 90 degree, then we get an obtuse triangle. So these are the basic formats or the types of a classification of a triangles. Let's talk about the property. Now, this is the most important part. Pythagorean has been there mapped into our mind in such a way that, even in the night at 2 a.m., if someone wakes me up, I can easily apply the Pythagoras theorem. But we rarely follows the same Pythagoras theorem for acute and obtuse triangle. We always go ahead with the equal Pythagorean theorem for right angle triangle. So if it's a 90-degree triangle, then we always say that, hypotenuse square would be equals to sum of perpendicular plus base squared, or opposite side is square plus adjacent side is square is equals to hypotenuse square. But how does this work in terms of acute triangle and obtuse triangle? There involves the inequality. And let me tell you, if you have this understanding of these three important uh, equations here, your questions would be solved very easily. So when we talk about an acute triangle, over here, angle C is supposed to be an angle less than 90 degree. We have three sides, x, y, and z. So x square plus y square would be greater than z square. If it's an acute triangle, then it would be greater than z square. If it's a right angle triangle, then it would be equals to z square, where z is an hypotenuse. And if it's an obtuse triangle, so angle happens to be more than 90 degree, then x square plus y square would be less than z squared. So let's apply this logic in one of the question. The question says, if the above isosceles triangle XYZ has XYZ with measure 40 degrees, so angle Y is 40, XYZ is an isosceles, that is what they say. But see, remember, when they say isosceles, it's not necessary that XY would be equals to XZ. It could be YZ equals to XZ as well, or there are three particular combination that we could get for two sides to be equal. So never over jump onto the conclusion that far or that fast. So if the above isosceles triangle XYZ has angle Y equals to 40 degree, which of the following could be the measure of angle Z? So, and when this particular question comes to my mind, I'll take all possible consideration that I could have. If this angle 40 degree, the first important or the easiest way is angle Z could be 40 degree. If that happens, that means XY, angle Y equals to angle Z. So that makes XY equals to XZ. So yes, that for sure that's an isosceles triangle. So angle X becomes 100 degree because sum of all the angles in the triangle is 180. So if there happens to be 40, it could be 40. Now let's talk about the fact that, angle X and angle Z are equal. So if that is the case, then 40 degree subtracted from 180 gets me a sum of 140. Now this 140 will be divided by 2 to get me an angle of 70 and 70 each. And if that is done, then this would be xy equals to yz. So I have three possibilities in which I have got three sides. So I have 40, 40, 100, 70, 70, 40, and 40, 40, 100. In that, xz is equals to yz. So if we go ahead in these three possible cases, all the options works fine. So my answer goes as E. The measure of angle XCY or angle C could be 40, could be 70, could be 100 as well. Right? All right, let's go ahead with the next part, in which we'll be dealing about or talking about Pythagorean theorem. Why Pythagorean? Because this has to be soon. We're going to talk about the spatial angles in triangles. When we talk about a Pythagorean, we have a side A, a leg, a B, and a hypotenuse. That's something which I've just spoken in the previous slide. Side A and B are called legs. They're the shortest side, or we could say hypotenuse is the longest side. And it's always opposite side to the right angle. So let's talk about this particular question that we have on the screen in 2 seconds from now. The question is about a right triangle ABC at B. It has a property that AB is equals to 16 and BC is equals to 12. And what is the length of line segment AC? Now, it's a very pretty simple question, AB, BC, and AC. Pythagorean triplets that we talk about, 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, 6, 8, 10. If someone remembers about 16 and 12 Pythagorean triplets, then the question easily get onto 20 and your question is solved. So it's simple application of a Pythagorean theorem. AB square plus BC square would be equals to AC square. That's a hypotenuse. 16 is square, 256. 12 is square is 144. That gets me a sum of 400, which is a square of 20. So my AC is 20. Job done. Simple. So the answer here goes as C. Now let's talk about the spatial angle problems. Now this is very important thing. GMAT never directly asks you about the spatial angle problems. They'll give you a figure in such a way that you have to draw out a spatial angle, triangles into it. Maybe it's an octagon dividing in such a way that you're getting a spatial angle triangles. Maybe it's a trapezoid in which you're drawing any spatial angle triangles. And therein where you have to either see whether it's a 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90. And then you have to go according to the side ratio rule. So the basic logic behind the spatial angle problem, when we talk about 45, 45, 90, when one of my angle is 90 degree, because it's a right angle triangle, the other two supposed to be a 45, 45. So that makes it an isosceles right angle triangle. So my both of the side becomes equal. So if I suppose the hypotenuse, the perpendicular to be A, my base becomes A. So definitely my hypotenuse becomes A square plus A square, and the square root of 2A square, that becomes A root 2. So indirectly, the ratio that I get out of here is 1 is to 1 is to root 2. So this is one thing that a GMAT aspirant should always remember. Secondly, when we talk about 30, 60, 90, now this is something a little bit confusing because most of the students often tend to forget this. But just remember one thing into this. If we could just hold on to two sides, you can still find out the third one. The only difference is, and the side opposite to 30 degree would be the shortest, because the side opposite to the smallest angle is always the smaller. So if that has to be A and my hypotenuse is 2A, the ratio that I'm going to get is root 3A. So that's 1 is to root 3 is to 2. So for 45, 45, 90 degree, it would be 1 is to 1 is to root 2. And for 30, 60, 90, it is 1 is to root 3 is to 2. Now let's talk about an example, a simple example directly on this. On the left hand side, we have taken the 45, 45, 90 degree, and the length of the side is 2. So the hypotenuse directly becomes 2 root 2. So suppose if I say there is an isosceles right angle triangle in which the side length is 5, your hypotenuse becomes 5 root 2. So if you remember that ratio, 1 is to 1 is to root 2, your job is done. Similarly, you need to apply the same thing for the 30, 60, 90. So if the side opposite to 30 degrees 3, the hypotenuse becomes the double of it, that becomes 6. So now that is pretty easy to find the side opposite to 60 degree angle, because that would be 3 times of root 3. So this becomes 3 root 3. Let's apply this into one of the PS question. Now this was the example directly based on the spatial triangle. Now let's apply it on the PS question. ABC and DEF are right triangles. Both A and C have measures 45 degrees. So that makes it 45, 45, 90. The measure of angle D is 60 and the measure of angle F is 30 degrees. So that makes it 30, 60, 90. If AB is 3 root 2 and EF is 2 root 3, what is the value of AC minus DF? So we have to actually find the difference between the hypotenuse But we'll deal with 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90 side ratio rule. So once we deal with the 45, 45, 90, let's talk about the 45, 45, 90 degree triangle first. That makes it A is to root 2, or 1 is to 1 is to root 2. Now, if you understand, the question already says that AB is 3 root 2. So if AB is 3 root 2, my hypotenuse will become root 2 times of 3 root 2. That makes it 6. Because my ratio is 1 is to 1 is to root 2. Over here, 1 is altogether 3 root 2. So A root 2, that becomes 3 root 2 times 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So I'm ready with AC. Now let's go on to the DF part. In 30, 60, 90 degree, the side opposite to 60 degrees is A root 3. And side opposite to 30 degrees just A. That makes DE as 2. If D is 2, then DF, the hypotenuse, becomes the double of it, that is 4. So now the AC is 6, DF is 4, difference would be 2, answer would be D. So you have to remember this particular ratio of 1 is to 1 is to root 2 and 1 is to root 3 is to 2 in order to solve these questions quickly. So I don't doubt and I don't disagree that you guys don't know the Pythagorean theorem. But again, understand, even a minute saved in one question, and likewise in 5 questions, if you are able to save a minute each, that 5 minutes would be of crucial part playing into your question set. Let's talk about the area of triangles. The area of triangle is very simple. It's half base into height. So height is always called as altitude as well, and you have got two sides. So over here, H is denoted as height and B is denoted as base. So area of triangle becomes half base into height. Now, that was a basic area of a triangle formula. Now, let's talk about the area of a triangle between two parallel lines. So suppose if L1 and L2 are two parallel lines, I have a triangle here, which is XAY. Then I have a triangle here, XBY. Then I have a triangle here, XCY. So I'm taking a common point X and Y here. So if you go ahead, then the area of triangle XYA would be equals to XYB equals to XYC. Three triangles that share the same basis have equal height, always remember. So this property would be applied in major questions. Let's talk about one of the questions if we could apply this property. The triangle in the above figure have the properties that AD is equals to 2 root 2. Angle ADB is 45. So now angle ADB, this triangle is 45, 45, 90, in which hypotenuse is already 2 root 2. So AB and BD should be 2 just because the ratio happens to be 1 is to 1 is to root 2. Now see, this is what it happens when you get to know one of the information, you're automatically solved about AB and BD. Now let's talk about angle ACD is 30 degrees. So whole angle ACB triangle, that would be 30, 60, 90. And now we have to find the area of triangle AC and D. So when we talk about area of triangle ACD, the smaller triangle is 45, 45, 90, and it is enclosed into the bigger triangle or the larger triangle, which is 30, 60, 90. Now AB is the same height. So AD is equals to 2 root 2. Now AD and AB ratio would be root 2 is to 1. So AB is 2. So that's a 45, 45, 90. 1 is to 1 is to root 2. Now that's already 2 root 2. That means it has to be 2. So AB is 2. Now that is a same height for ACB as well. Now AB is equals to BD because it's an isosceles triangle. So that makes it 2. Let's find the ratio of AB is to BC. That would be equals to 1 is to root 3 because angle A would be 60 degree if you're talking about, because angle C is already 30. So when we talk about the whole BC, which is opposite to 60 degree, that makes it 2 root 3. Once you have this BC as 2 root 3, this is the findings that we have got from the above solution. So AD was already 2 root 2. Solving for ABD with the logic of 45, 45, 90 spatial triangle, we got 2 and 2. Then solving it for ABC with a logic of 30, 60, 90, we get it as 2 root 3. So now CD, because we're dealing with the area of triangle ACD, we need to find the value of CD. Now this CD can easily be written as whole BC minus BD, which is nothing but 2 root 3 times minus 2. So if 2 is taken common, then I get it as root 3 minus 1. Area of triangle would be AB times CD divided by 2. 2 times 2 root 3 minus 1 divided by 2 gives you 2 times root 3 minus 1. The answer goes as B. Now we can definitely solve it with trigonometry. If you have a complete logic about sine 45, sine 30, cosine 45, cosine 30, and tan 45, tan 30. So if you're very good into understanding about which trigonometric ratio has to be applied, and if you know and remember those values of 1 over root 2, root 3 over 2, 1 over 2 and all, I have no problem. But in general, this is not only the way to solve, but this is the most common way for all those students who doesn't know about the trigonometric ratios and all. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead with this. Angles in triangles. So when we talk about angles in triangles, the sum of interior angles in a triangle would be 180 degree. The straight line angle is always 180 degree. Now exterior angle x degree would be always equal to a plus b. So we have a line L, we have line M, that's the two parallel lines. We have a triangle inside it. We have three angles ABC. X degree, that's a x is an external angle. That would be equals to a plus b. If line L is parallel to line M, a plus b plus c would be equals to 180 degree. And also c plus x, that's a straight line angle, is 180 degree. So when you say a plus b plus c is 180 and c plus x is 180, that means they both are equal. So a plus b plus c happens to be equals to c plus x. If you cancel out c from both the side, you get a plus b equals to x. So that's the exterior angle property. It's always equal to sum of two opposite interior angles. So let's talk about this question based on the exterior angles. ABC is a triangle. There is a line segment BE and CD, which are the extensions of its sides AB and BC. Angle A is already 50 degree. We need to find the sum of the measure of angle ACD, which is an exterior, and angle CBE, which is also an exterior. If we talk about this and if we just give a name to some of the interior angles, this is how the figure looks like to us. So we have angle ABC inside the triangle, then we have X as ACD and Y degree as CBE. So interior angles are ABC, angle adjacent are C by X and B by Y. Now let's talk about this particular way. A plus B plus C would be equals to 180 degree because sum of all the angles in a triangle is 180. At which A is all, and C plus X is 180. Also X is equals to A plus B. Exterior angle is equal to sum of two opposite angles. Y is also an exterior angle, so that becomes Y is equals to A plus C. Now since we have to find the value of X and Y to add up, A is already given as 50 degree. That makes B plus C plus 50 equals to 180 or B plus C equals to 130. Now X is already A plus B. That means it's 50 plus B. And Y is A plus C. That is 50 plus C. So if you add up both X and Y, you're going to get A plus B plus A plus C. That means 100 plus B plus C. And B plus C is already 130. So that makes it 100 plus 130 equals to 230 degree. So our answer goes as E. Fine, let's go to another one. Area of equilateral triangle. Root 3 times a square over 4. A simple logic. All the sides are equal in equilateral triangles. Area of triangle is half base into height. If we drop a perpendicular bisector on this particular equilateral triangle, the base is halved into a over 2a over 2. And then if you find the value of a perpendicular, that becomes your altitude. So even if you apply the same logic of half base into height, the final answer that we get is root 3 over 4 a square. So that is a direct formula for area of equilateral triangle, which is found again by applying half base into height. Let's talk about one of the question. Now, whenever there would be an equilateral triangle question, there would be a figure in which you have to either draw an equilateral or have to see whether there is an equilateral or not. They may not give you a direct equilateral triangle to find something out of it, or it could be circumscribed in a circle or inscribed in a circle. So in this particular question, it says there is a parallelogram ABCD, and the area is already given as 24 root 3. It says if AB equals to BC equals to CA. Now that particular case tells me that it's an equilateral triangle ABC. What is the length of each side of this parallelogram? Now, since triangle ABC is an equilateral triangle, because AB equals to BC equals to CA, definitely ACD would also be an equilateral triangle. So if one side is A, let's consider one side length of triangle to be A, then that what we have to find here is the value of A. Now, area of parallelogram ABCD would be the sum of area of both the triangles, that is ABC and ACD. Or you could say 2 times of ABC, because both the triangles are same. Now, since it's already an equilateral triangle, we could say it's root 3 over 4 times A square, 2 times of root 3 over 4A square. And that is something equated to 24 root 3, because that is the area of a parallelogram, which is already given. So if we just try cancelling out, 2 root 3 would cancel, 24 root 3 12 times. So A square becomes 48. Or A square over 4 becomes 12. So A square becomes 48. If you take a square root of 48, that becomes 4 root 3. So the side of this parallelogram is 4 root 3. Let's talk about number of triangles in polygon. A very simple logic. If you have to draw a triangle in a polygon, you need 3 points. So number of triangles in a polygon can easily be found by n minus 2, where n is the number of vertices. Suppose if you have a pentagon, 5 minus 2, that makes it 3. So there would be 3 triangles. If it's a hexagon, 6 minus 2, that would be 4. If it's an octagon, there would be 8 vertices. 8 minus 2, that would be 4. 8 minus 2, that would be 6. So you don't have to actually fall for a combination here and try solving it. If you remember n minus 2 are the number of triangles that you could form in a polygon, your job is done. So now here the question says, if K is the number of triangles forming a polygon with n sides, and Kn is equals to 120, what is the value of n? Now see, understand, we don't know what that polygon is because it says it's an n side. We don't know the number of triangles formed because it says it's K, and Kn is equals to 120 degrees. So we'll apply the same logic that the number of triangles that are formed in a polygon is equals to n minus 2. This K, which is the number of triangles, should be equals to n minus 2. Now, when Kn is already 120, we can substitute the value of K equals to n minus 2 into the equation, and we end up getting n minus 2 times n is equals to 120. You could either expand it and factorize, or either you could try picking an option and work out here. Both of that works. So over here, if you just expand n equals to 12, if you put it here, 12 minus 2 is 10, 10 times 2 is 120. So E becomes a direct option if you just plug in the values. So rather than forming a quadratic equation, we could definitely n equals to 12 or minus 10, n equals to 12. That has to be positive because we cannot consider the negative. Now let's talk about something very important, which is congruency and similarity of triangles. That is one of the key properties. Well, I'll go with the congruency first, and then I'll go with the similarity. So we have first property as side equal, which are SSS. It says length of the 3 pairs of the corresponding sides of triangles are equal. That is congruency. When we talk about similarity, the word is proportion. The length of 3 pairs of the corresponding sides are in the same proportions, because similarity gives you a scaling factor. So the length of sides may not be equal. The second property is SAS, which is a side angle side. Length of two pairs of adjacent corresponding sides are equal, and measure of angles between them is equal. In the same way, for similarity, it would be proportion, but angles would be equal. Angles are not in proportion. It's always the sides that are in proportion. There's a reason why I have framed its congruency and similarity on left and right, because you could remember just one thing, but you know what is the difference. In congruency, they would be equal. In similarity, the sides will be in proportion. Angles would be in equal, definitely. ASA, when we talk about it, the measure of two pairs of corresponding angles are equal. So the length of corresponding sides would also be equal. And when we talk about similarity, it's a two corresponding pairs are equal. So that's AA. So this is how the congruency of triangle looks like. When we have SSS side by side, then we have AB equals to XY, BC equals to YZ, XC equals to AC. When we have SAS, then AB is equals to XY, BC is equals to YZ. So the angle between these two sides, that is angle ABC and angle XYZ, would be equal. And when you say ASA, angle ABC is equal to angle XYZ, and angle CAB is equals to angle ZXY, and hence AB would be equals to XY. If we go about the similarity on this, the length of three pairs correspondingly would be in a proportion. So AB is to BC is to AC would be equals to XY, YZ, ZX. So we could write AB over XY is equals to BC over YZ is equals to AC over XC. Same goes the logic for SAS, in which angles would be equal, side would be in a proportion, and same goes for AA, in which angles would be equal. Okay, so let's talk about one of the questions based on this format. The above figure shows a triangle ABC. If AC is equals to BC, D is equals to 5, AB is equals to 7, the height of triangle ABC is 5, and line segment AB and line segment DE are parallel, what is the value of X? Now, this particular triangle ABC and DEC are similar to each other. So we'll apply the logic of proportionality with the given data. So we have a triangle ABC, which has a height of 5. And if we say that D is X distance from AB, that means height of triangle CDE will become 5 minus X. Now this ABC and DE, they have a triangle, they're a similar triangle with the property of AA, which is angle. Angle ACB is equals to angle DCE, and angle CAB is equal to angle CDE. The two corresponding pairs of angles are equal. So if we take the ratio, AB is to 5, so that's a base over height, would be equals to DE is to 5 minus X. So base over height is of a bigger triangle is equals to base over height of the smaller. Let's plug the values. AB is 7, D is 5. So we have 7 is to 5 is equals to 5 is to 5 minus X. Solving this part is not a difficult part. 7 times 5 minus X would be equals to 5 times 5, which is 25. 35 minus 7X is equals to 25. So 7X becomes equal to 10. So X is equals to 10 over 7. So this is a property of similar triangles. So E is the correct answer. Let's talk about triangle which doesn't has a equal sides. Acute angle triangle. No, it's a scalene triangle. So we always apply the Heron's formula. We first find the semi-perimeter, which is P equals to A plus B plus C whole divided by 2. And then we take the square root of P P minus A, P minus B, and P minus C. What is the area of triangle ABC is shown in the above figure, where the length of the three sides of 5, 6, 7. We'll solve this question in 10 seconds of time. 5, 6, 7. 6 plus 5, 11 plus 7 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So that means we are taking a square root of 9, 4, 3, and 2. So simple application of Hero's formula gets me a result of 6 root 6. That's it. 9, 4, 3, 2. 9 can be easily out, 4 can be easily out. That makes it 6. 3 and 2 is inside, that makes it 6 root 6. I again repeat this. Let's find the value of P first. So 5 plus 6 plus 7, that's a parameter, but we deal into semi-parameter, so we have to divide it by 2. So 18 divided by 2 gets me 9. Apply the Heron's formula, P minus A, P minus B, P minus C. Is square root of 9, 9 minus 5, 9 minus 6, 9 minus 7 gets you 9, 4, 3, 2. 9 is 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So 2 times 3 is outside. The square root 3 times 2 remains inside. That's 6 root 6. Answer goes as D. Simple. Let's talk about the spatial properties. So far we were discussing about PS. Now let's talk about something which is more critical when it comes to DS. So I'll be applying the variable approach for sure on this particular part. So it says to figure out the area or the parameter of triangle. So suppose we don't have to measure the angles. We're just talking either to find an area or a parameter. We'll always have three variables and we'll use one of the equations. So we have three variables, then it would be E would be the most likely answer. If we have a three variable and one equation, then C would be most likely answer. So suppose if one of the angle is given or one of the side is given, C is the most likely answer. So this is how we write it into the precise format. So your original condition plus condition 1 plus condition 2. So length of three sides, three equation, C is the answer. Length of two sides given and one angle given, C is the answer. One side and two angles are given, C is the answer. Overall equation would be 3. So let's talk in an application of this format on DS question. The right triangle ABC shown in the figure above has angle C equals to 90 degree. So that's a right angle triangle at C. AB is equals to 26. What is the length of AC? Now it says the length of BC is 14 greater than length of AC. And second, it says the ratio of length of AC to length of BC is 5 to 12. When we apply the variable approach, we know that we have three variables and measure of an angle or a length of a side will give us one equation. When I go ahead and apply the three steps, let's talk about some data given here. We have to find the length of AC, which is supposed to be B. BC is considered to be A and AB is considered to be C, which is already 26. So we're dealing with three variables here, A, B, C, in which AB is already given and angle C is 90 degree, that is also given. So we just need one more equation to solve. And if I need one more equation to solve, my possible answer looks like to be D, which gets me a hint that I have to check the conditions separately. When I have to check the condition separately, I jump on to condition number 1 to check it. It says length of BC is 14 greater than length of AC. That means A is equals to B plus 14. If we plug this value into A square plus B square equals to C square, because that's a right angle triangle, so application of Pythagorean theorem is done. We get B plus 14 is square plus B square is equals to 26 squared. Plugging in all the values and solving it gets us to an quadratic equation at the end, solving for which I get B equals to 10. So this is a unique answer. So this is condition is sufficient. When we go ahead on the second part where it says A is to B is 12 is to 5. Ratio of length of AC to the length of BC is 5 is to 12. So A is to B is 12 is to 5. We could take any integer, random integer k. So that would be 12k plus 12k and 5k. We reapply the Pythagorean theorem. 12k squared plus 5k squared would be equals to 26 squared, which is 676. 144k squared plus 25k square equals to 676. That makes it 169k square equals to 676. 676 divided by 169 gets me 4. So k square becomes 2. If k is 2, then a becomes 24 and b becomes 10. We were looking for AC, that makes it 10. So, remember, this is the tip. Condition number 1 gets you answer 10. Condition number 2 gets you answer 10. So your answer would be D. So anywhere in DS, if you have getting the same answers for the both condition, the answer goes as D. Now let's talk up something about the circles. As we're done with the triangle part, we'll go with the circles basics, which are pretty basic. How does a circle look like? So it has a center O, then it has a radius R, which is a loci, drawing out the equal area. It's a equidistance from the center. On the semicircle part, it's half of the circle. So we have a diameter D, which is 2R. We have a center O. Then how do we write about the areas and circumference of the circles and semicircle? So we deal with three particular letters. D equals to diameter, R is radius, O is center. Area of circle is pi r square, circumference is 2 pi r. Area of semicircle is pi r square divided by 2, and the circumference of semicircle is 2 pi r divided by 2, that is pi r plus d. I've seen most of the students just applying pi r, they never read up d. So please pay much attention to this. Let's talk about a shaded portion question. It says, as shown in the figure above, 4 quarters of circle are fitted in a square. If the length of each side of the square is 2, what is the area of shaded region? When we talk about such kind of question, we could definitely visualize it that there is a square and there is a circle inside it. So if I just go ahead and, from the shaded part, if I just remove a circle, I'll be left out with that particular shaded part. So area of 4 quarters is equals to area of one whole circle. So 4 quarters that we see here can be arranged as a whole circle. This is what I can say. So this particular circle is perfectly inscribed in a square. The side of the square is 2. That will act as a diameter for the circle. So diameter is 2, then the radius has to be half of it. That becomes 1. If that is 1, then the area of circle becomes pi r square is equals to pi times 1 square, which is pi. And area of a square would be 4, because length is 2, squared area is a square. Now we have to just subtract the value, that is 4 minus 5. Yes, Harsha, that was the correct answer. So that becomes 4 minus pi. Let's talk about arc, chords, and semicircle, the other two important parts of circles. When we talk about a chord, it should be a line that is joining the two endpoints on the circle, but it cannot be a diameter. I won't say it cannot be a diameter, because diameter itself is the longest chord, but it has to pass through the center. So anything that is not passing to the center but joining the endpoints on the circumference is a chord. So AB here is a chord, and we have an arc ACB. We have a minor arc AB. So there are two important formulas that we go in here. One is arc, which is length of arc, which is theta times 360 or x degree over 360. X is the central angle subtended out of 360, the total angle, times 2 pi r. Why 2 pi r? Because it's been, the length of arc is always measured on the circumference part. When we talk about the sector, it's always x over 360 times pi r squared, because that's the area that we pulls out. So the only difference between length of arc and area of sector would be area times theta over 360, or x over 360, or the central angle over 360, and length of arc would be circumference times central angle over 360. So let's talk about one of the questions. The circle in the above figure has a radius of 4, and the central angle of the sector AOB is 60 degrees. What is the difference between the length of arc AB and the length of arc ACB? We have to find the difference between the length of arc AB and ACB. ACB is a major arc, AB is a minor arc. We have to find the difference between this. AB can easily be found out by the length of arc formula, which is 2 pi r times theta over 360. Theta is 60 already, no problem. 2 pi can be measured. Radius is 4. So everything is given for the length of arc AB to found. So that's 2 pi times 4 times 60 over 360. 60 over 360 is 1 over 6. 2 pi times 4 is 8 pi. 8 pi over 6 is 4 pi over 3. So the length of arc AB is ready. Now let's go ahead and find the length of arc ACB first. Now this length of arc ACB would be nothing. It's a whole circumference minus AB. So whole circumference is 2 pi r. R is 4, so that's 8 pi minus 4 pi by 3, which makes it as 20 pi by 3. Now the last step that we have to do is the difference between the both. So that becomes 20 pi over 3 minus 4 pi over 3, that is equals to 16 pi over 3. Now let's talk about tangents to a circle. We know a straight line that touches a point exactly at 1. If we draw a particular line, that is called a point of tangency. If you draw a line from the center to this point of tangency, that would act as a perpendicular. So we could say a tangent line is always perpendicular to the radius of circle, or radius of circle is always falls at 90 degree to the point of tangency. There is always one point where the tangent does. Now, if line goes into the circle, it must touch the circle at least 2 times. That is pretty common. So now, like we have a question here which says a circle has a center O, line segment AB and line segment BC. So now see, AB and BC would be equal because this is a property that if there are two tangents drawn from the same external point, their length is equal. So AB is equals to BC, that acts as a triangle. O is a center, OD is a radius, OE is also a radius, so that falls at 90 degree. Angle DOE is 120 degree, and BD is already equals to 6. We have to find the length of FB. Now, when we talk about this, we know there's angle ODB and angle OEB would be 90 degree. So let's talk about now. See, this is wherein I was telling to you guys that spatial angle triangles has to be applied. So they will not give you a direct question. They'll give you a question in which they have to apply it. So over here, if you see, we have a 90 degree, that 120 degree would be equals to 60, 60. So 90, 60 definitely will have 30 degrees. So if we pull that particular triangle out, it looks like to us as ODB here. Now 30, 60, 90, we'll quickly write the ratio x, 2x and root 3x. So ODB written. So DB is 6, OD is x. So now if you see the right triangle and the left part of the triangles here, the left part gives us a spatial triangle which is 30, 60, 90. The left figure is a proper, gets a ratio of 1 is to root 3 is to 2. Right figure has to be taken as a ratio, so that x is to 6 should be 1 is to root 3. So we can quickly find the value of x here. X over root 3 is equals to 6, or that's x equals to 6 over root 3, which is equals to 2 root 3. So I get the value of x is equals to 2 root 3. Now OB is 2 times OD. That is already 2. So that becomes 2 times 2 root 3, that becomes 4 root 3. So now my complete value is done. I know this is 6. My hypotenuse is 4 root 3. My OD, my perpendicular is 2 root 3. If I have to find the value of FB, I go back to the same diagram in the previous slides. FB, it would be OB minus OF. If we go OB minus OF, OF would be equals to OD. So that is equals to OB, which is 4 root 3 minus OD, which is 2 root 3. So that makes it 2 root 3. The application of triangle property along with a spatial angle is noticed here. Let's talk about inscribed and circumscribed. So we say that the circle circumscribes the polygon, maybe a triangle, a quadrilateral, and all those, if the vertices of all those polygons lie on the edge of the circles. Inscribed and circumscribed are always an opposite concept. right? A polygon circumscribes a circle if all of its sides are tangent. So if you see through a diagram here to understand how does the inscribed and circumscribed works. In the left figure, if you see a circle circumscribing a polygon is, or we could say WXYZ, which is a square, is inscribed in a circle. On the right hand side, if you see a pentagon or the polygon, it's circumscribing a circle. Or we could say a circle is inscribed in a hexagon ABCDEF. So now let's go ahead and apply a question format here. The figure shows a square that is inscribed in a circle. If the side length of the square is 2, what is the area of circle? Don't rush. Side length is 2, radius diameter 2, radius 1, pi r square pi. Pi is also an option. Marked answer A, moved ahead. That is when your circle is inside the square. Over here, the concept is a square is inside a circle. So always remember that your diagonal of the square would be the diameter of circle. Where your side length is 2, we know that if the side length of a square is A, my diagonal is A root 2. So if the side length of a square is 2, my diagonal will be 2 root 2. If diagonal is 2 root 2, that means my diameter is 2 root 2, so my radius becomes half of it, that is root 2. And now to find the area of a circle, pi r squared, that is pi times root 2 squared, which is 2 pi. So answer is not pi, but answer is 2 pi. So if the circle is inside, it's 2 pi. If circle was outside, it was pi. So don't jump. See what is inscribed and what is not. Now, this is one of the most important theorem that you have to remember always. Many a times the question directly comes, so maybe the application of it is seen. The relationship between the central angle and the angle subtended at the circumference. So a central angle has twice the measure of angle at the circumference. So if the central angle would be is 150, the angle at circumference would be 75. It's 130, it's 65. Angle subtended at the semicircle is 90 degree. These are the two properties that has to be always remembered. The line segment AB is a diameter, center is O. So one of the side is a diameter, triangle is a right angle triangle. Let's try a question on this part. Triangle XYZ is inscribed in a semicircle XYZ as shown in the figure. XZ is a diameter. If the length of XY is 3 and length of YZ is 4, what is the length of arc XYZ? Now we know that if it is 3 and 4, y would be 90 degrees. So xz will be acting as a hypotenuse. So we could definitely apply the Pythagorean theorem to find the value of xc, which is equals to 3 square plus 4 square, that is equals to 25. Taking a square root of 25, I get it as 5. It's a Pythagorean triplet of 3, 4, 5. So xz is 5. But my question is not done here. It says what is the length of arc xyz? Now length of arc xyz is 2 pi r divided by 2, that is equals to d equals to 2r. If you plug the value of d equals to 5, that gets me 2.5 pi. So length of arc xyz of a semicircle is 2 pi r over 2. 2r is d diameter, so that's a d pi. D pi, so d is already 5 because that's a xc which is acting as a diameter, so that's a 5 pi over 2, which is 2.5 pi. Now this upcoming slide is very crucial. Direct application and questions has been seen on this part. If there is an inscribed circle, they always ask you to find either the area or the in radius. So area of a triangle with an inscribed circle, it's 1 over 2 times RA or plus half times RB plus half times RC, or you could say R times of A plus B plus C divided by 2. R is the radius of circle, A, B, C are the sides, or the length of the sides of a triangle. Direct formula, r times a plus b plus c divided by 2. So what we do is we draw a straight line from the center point to each of the three sides. So length of the lines now, it acts as a radius of the inscribed circle, which is r. Then we have drawn the dotted lines, if you have seen there. Now we will divide the triangles into three smaller triangles. So area of the smaller triangles are like 1 over 2 times RA, base into height, RB, half times base into height, RC, half times base into RC. If you add up all this, we get an area of a triangle with an inscribed circle. Let's go with some understanding of circumscribed. How does a circle touches? So over here, area of a circumscribed circle A would be a square over 3 times pi. The length of each side of a triangle here is a. This becomes a square over 3 times pi. Now let's understand and apply this two logics into one of the questions. Question says that a triangle in the above diagram has sides of length 4, 4, and 6. So it's an isosceles triangle. What is the area of an inscribed circle? We'll quickly apply the logic of area of triangle to this Heron's formula. The perimeter is 4 plus 4 plus 6, which is 14 divided by 2. That gets me 7. If I find the area of a triangle quickly by plugging in the values, I get it as square root of 7, 7 minus 4, 7 minus 4, and 7 minus 6. That gets me 331. So that's a 7 3 squared. So that is 3 root 7. Now, area of triangle would be equals to r times of a plus b plus c divided by 2, which is equals to r times of 4 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 2, which is 7r. Now, this particular 7r would be equals to 3 root 7. So we have found the area of triangle, and we have written the formula of area of triangle in terms of inscribed circle so that we could find the value of r. Once we know the value of r, we are able to find the area of circle, which is pi r square. So 7r becomes 3 root 7. R would be 3 root 7 over 7, which is 3 over root 7. Let's do the pi r square thing here. Pi times 3 over root 7 squared will give you 9 over 7. Answer goes as 9 pi over 7. So this is wherein we talk about, triangles and the circles. And just to brief you about the math revolution part, as I know most of you already know it, that we were established in 2001 in South Korea. And it's been 41,000 more students that we have trained across 190 plus countries right now. 90% plus students have scored 49 out of 51. We deal into the most important concept of getting 49, 50, 51 score only through the variable approach for DS and IB approach for PS. And talking about a person behind this, mastermind of IB approach and variable approach, it's Max Lee. He's a founder and CEO. Has taken GMAT almost 27 times. He has solved 100 questions or 100,000 questions to make sure that this application is well applied, and it's a world's first variable approach. It's a unique approach, saves a lot of time, and it becomes much easier for to solve the DS questions. So this is how it works. And characteristics, if we talk about the math revolution, it's always a uniqueness that we talk about because we have a first variable approach, we have a math skills. So it doesn't matter even if you're not from a math background, a non-math background, a student have also be benefited by our courses. Quickness is you always square. So you have 5 to 10 minutes at the end, and you finish off your paper before. And accuracy, we always talk about the accuracy. That is what we have always developed. Let me talk about some strategies to score on for the scores of 50, 51. So there are a lot of conventional ways to solve questions in math because everyone learns math during their high school. But GMAT won't get you that much amount of time, and they never ask you a direct question Some questions could be direct for the Q3540 level, in which there would be a direct application of concept or a formula, maybe. But every question has been well knitted to some other concepts. So there is always seen that there is an application of 2 to 3 concepts. So taking an X and assuming those variables and solving get us into a lot of trouble. So this is what it has been noticed, that applying a conventional approach along with whatever the math skills you have, there are few people or few numbers that have scored well as 50-51. But in order to make sure that there are a lot of this percentage increases who scores 50-51, the variable approach for DS, the IV approach for PS, your logics, your confidence, your proper strategy and approaches and practices would definitely give you a 50-51 score in GMAT Quant. You could write me back on to Puneet at mathrevolution.com. You can definitely write me back at info@mathrevolution.com if you have anything to talk about the approaches, the Math Revolution approach and conventional approach. And if you have any questions right now, you can definitely ask me. The chat window is still open. I could definitely see you guys, and you can get me back if you have any questions regarding any strategies. You can book a call, a consultation call directly. The links are pretty available on GMAT Club. So yeah, that is it for today. So you can get onto Math Revolution, have a free resources. You can write me on the email. You can talk to me over the call. This video would be soon uploaded, so you can go back to this. You can refer to all those concepts. And yeah, that is it for today. So thank you so much and have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye bye.